How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in. Don't you dare give up now. Hope believed in me, pull up through some bucks down. Tired till the valet pull the truck round. Push the line after we chew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this and booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement? Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. And ain't the best for my region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on, you never come to mind. Rapping like your Spotify tap, you rappers compromise. Yeah, no need to panic, just paint the canvas. If you can feel the static, you're too close, find your balance. Embed the revolution for their prohibition bandwidth. Blood trickle from the leaders he was planning. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. Ordered that flight to Amsterdam. With my accountant of mine, my family found out too and didn't like it. You're not in the salon with Dale said, and I thought he was biased. Then I got a Venmo that said copy the finest. Before my foolishness settled in, recorded the whole tape before we got to Berlin. This close to giving up and now never again. Don't overlook the work and come expecting to win. In the end, my word, never put nothing over the squad. Got it right up under their nose, gentrified the facade. Off the cliff with broken wings, I'm aware of the odds. Enough faith for us all, I'm the one for the job. Most days, catching sun rays, baby, look like the front page. Overthinking what they might say, have it your way, yeah. The biggest threat is something they never seen. Dial it up, patch me into the screen. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up.
Hey, how you doing, folks out there, Lukman Nation land? My name is Baba Lukman.
And I am Jackie Lukman.
And we welcome you to our Monday edition of Coffee, Current Events, and Politics, the most dangerous show on social media anywhere. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight.
A lot. You know, a lot of stuff to talk about.
You know, so I'd like to welcome Lisa Catlett. She got a ripple ready. She got a ripple. She ready. Those of you who have joined us today, we welcome you and we thank you. We just ask that you take a few minutes and, you know, to share and like and get your friends in on it, you know, and even your enemies, you know, and just let them tune in to the greatest, the most dangerous show on social media. And, you know, I got to get back and practice with this because I haven't been, you know, doing the live streams for a minute.
I know you took a little sabbatical.
Yeah.
So, well, look, we need to take care of ourselves. You know, we noticed that Mr. Lukman was kind of slow and moving slow and not feeling so well. So, you know, we forced him into a little bit of rest. So he's well rested now.
I am.
He's back, and you got a lot to say.
I have a lot to say, but first, before I say this, if you notice how beautiful my beard is, right?
Beautiful.
See, right?
It's soft and luxurious.
Exactly. Yes. Right.
And it smells good.
And I can't look, as much as I would love to take credit for it, I can't take credit for my beard because I use beardy goodness. Beardy goodness. And you know something, we have a lot of wonderful people out there in Lukman Nation, right? And you know, one of the friends of the show, using Wendy Williams terms, but he's a friend of the show. And he has his own company. And he saw my beard and he said, look, he sent me a nice letter. It was a beautiful letter, you know. And he said that he has a company with beard products. And he said, and I got to say, I mean, guys, if you want real good care of your beard and nice products, and I mean, like not none of that CVS stuff. I mean, this stuff comes in some wonderful fragrances. And I mean, look, I highly recommend it. So I want to give a shout out to Kelly Cody?
To Kelly and Cody Clifton. Yes, Baba Lukman received your package from Beardy Goodness. I don't know if you can see the card there, but we're gonna take a picture of it and pop it up there for you. The name of the company is Beardy Goodness.
Yep.
Beardy Goodness. Cody and Kelly Clifton, thank you so much.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's I gotta look. I gotta say, this is really, really, really nice. So anyway, you know, I mean, I've been really upset lately, and well, let me just go on this. You see the video, you know, with the 9-year-old girl and everything like that. Well, I mean, I had a lot of feelings about that.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what my commentary is going to be on, folks. It's going to be on this. So, I mean, many of you have probably seen the disturbing video of the 9-year-old girl who was disturbing video of the 9-year-old girl who got maced in Rochester, New York, by the police. While answering a domestic call, disturbance call. When I saw the video, let me go up here for a second. This is better. All right, many of you probably seen the disturbing video of the 9-year-old girl in Rochester, New York, who was maced by police answering a domestic disturbance call. When I saw the video of this child calling for her daddy, crying and screaming in pain, I grew angry at the callousness of those officers involved who ignored the pleas of this child. Well, anger is an understatement. I was enraged. Yes, enraged. I was not only enraged at the police officers who brutally manhandled this child and applied a chemical agent which could have killed her, but I was also angered by the powerlessness of a community that stood helplessly by while police abused this child. At one point on the video, I saw a black man watching what was going on only for the police to threaten him with arrest if he didn't move on. Now, look, if that was me, folks, I would have just gotten arrested. And if you don't believe me, you know, ask Mrs. Lukman here. So yes, I was enraged by those images, and I thought about my own daughter and my grandchildren, and who are all girls. And so I shuddered at the thought of my granddaughters being dehumanized and treated with such disrespect for their very being. My rage, however, descended into melancholy as I remember the black man who watched and didn't come to aid that child. I thought about the countless videos I've seen throughout the years of black children being mistreated by law enforcement in the presence of black adults who stood by afraid to intervene. Remember Officer Slam? Yeah, I know we do. Well, Officer Slam, the school resource officer who slammed the young black high school girl to the floor while she was still sitting at her desk? Well, how about there was a black male teacher that was in that classroom at that time, standing by? I remember the young black boy who was beaten by 2 school resource officers in the presence of a black male principal. And there's many examples. I'm sure you got my point. Hearing that child scream for her daddy, however, brought me to tears. Where was her father? Why didn't the black male spectator who intervene? Where were the neighbors? Where were the neighbors who could have diffused this situation long before the police even arrived? Those were the questions that I asked myself. Excuse me, folks. So hearing that child scream for her father, hearing that child scream for her daddy brought me to tears. And like I said, where was her father? Why didn't the black male spectator intervene? Where were the neighbors who could have calmed the situation down before the police even arrived? And who was the person who even called the police in the first place? These are all signs that the black community is in crisis. This child had no one to protect her. How do you think that she processed that? She couldn't even rely on her community to protect her. She was alone, as so many of our children often are, to deal with the depravity of systemic racism. But what does that say about us, the black men and women who too often sit back, looking helplessly while the state's stormtroopers kill and abuse our children? What does it say about black manhood? Do you think that type of behavior would not have been challenged if that girl was white? We know the answer. Watching that video, I saw more than just the abuse of a child by officers who swore to protect her and her community. What I saw and what I witnessed on that video is often too much what I see in Black communities all around this nation. I saw a Black community in disarray, a community on life support, helpless, powerless, and afraid. Our children are our future, folks, and they need to be protected. That's my commentary on Look My Nation today. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but you
know. No. I mean, look, that this is a heavy topic, folks, and it's really hard for us to talk about it. It's hard for us to be like dispassionate about it.
Right.
Like, you know, journalists are supposed to be dispassionate and they're not supposed to show a whole lot of emotion about it. But I'm sorry, this is us. This is our people. These are our children. This is our life in this country, and there is no way that we cannot talk about these issues and be angry and express the rage. I mean, the obvious target of our rage is obviously the cops, right? That's obvious. But I think you asked some really important questions about the rest of us.
Right.
You know, we're all under siege in this system by this white supremacist, fascist institution of policing. And just like in the video that was playing while you were talking through your commentary, because we did play that video of that child being arrested by the cops and assaulted by them, and I intentionally cut it off right when they started to mace that baby. But you know, yeah, I understand that we are all under siege and we are all in the crosshairs of this system.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, Phil Winter over here in the chat, what's up, Phil, said we got to be more involved. And I feel like that's what you were saying.
Exactly what I was saying.
And I mean, but how do we tell people who are afraid of this institution and the people who uphold this institution, the cops, how do we tell people to get more involved when they're afraid of the people that they have to get more involved, you know, to protect our babies from?
Well, you know, I think, first of all, that the Black community, we need to start asking ourselves some serious questions. I think that we haven't really examined and reflected on some of the problems that we have. Often because we're attacked so much from the outside, you know, that's where our focus is. And we know, okay, we know about systemic racism. We have a good understanding about how we got here. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that that what happened to us is abnormal. But I don't think that we actually took the time out as a community to actually examine and take apart what our community has become. I think with these videos and a lot of times with these videos and what we see every day, we have become desensitized to a lot of the stuff that's happening in the community that our parents and grandparents wouldn't have stood for. We have been so inundated with all of this violence around us, murder rates, shooting, trauma. And what it is just this constant trauma. And
Say that again.
It is. It's constant trauma. And so what happens is that here we are at this receiving end of this constant trauma, yet we have not developed as a community an effective way to deal with it. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that we have forgotten our culture. Culture is, as I've heard someone say before, culture is like the immune system for any people.
Wow.
So if your immune system is weak, and that's what the community is, if your immune system is weak, I mean, then any disease comes, you don't have an immune system strong enough to fight the disease. So, I mean, and how do you have a strong immune system? You have to have a healthy body. So, you know, so if we take that analogy and look at the Black community, we're not healthy.
Wow.
And so we don't have the effective response Because look what happened to this young girl. Here she is, 9 years old. And I want us to really think about this. Think about if that was your child. 9-year-old girl who was screaming, man, brought tears to my eyes, screaming that I want my daddy. Now, this is after we're told that black men, this is after we're told that black men mean nothing to their children, that black men don't mean anything to the community, that that we're not even needed. Yet this child says, I want my daddy. And for her to scream for daddy now, and for these cops, as so often, it's not. Now let's look at the other video. Let's look at George Floyd. Let's look at Eric Garner. Let's look at so many videos we saw where they try to communicate to the police, I can't breathe. You got the handcuffs, and it falls on deaf ears. Even something as simple as, why are you arresting me? And the police don't even feel that you're worthy enough to even respond to. And that's what really angered me. I was enraged because I'm saying to myself, like, all of these people that live in this neighborhood, and yet I looked around, I saw one black man, and he when the cop said, oh, you want to get arrested too? You better go on. I'm saying to myself, would this have happened in the 60s? Would the black community would have stood for this in the 60s? Would the black community would have stood for this in the 70s during the Black Power movement that we have? Of course they wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't. But here we are today in 2021, so beat down, so dragged through the mud. I mean, so beat down by white supremacy and systemic racism that I understand that we're tired. I understand that we're fatigued. And I understand that many of us just don't want to fight anymore. But now, man, we're talking about our babies. And the children are our future. We're talking about the babies. We're talking about our future where, first of all, they're being undereducated. I mean, let's look at the public schools. They're being undereducated. No one's investing in them. And the fact that the wealth in the black community is becoming the wealth gap between blacks and whites is expanding ever more to the point where they're saying, like, in another decade or so, we're going to have zero wealth. How do you think that's going to affect the kids of that time? But yet, at the same time, we're all walking around acting like a bunch of individuals. You know, I was telling them when we was looking at the commercials, and they had Apple, you got Google, you got all of them now. They done made trillions of dollars. Now, all of a sudden now, it's like, well, let's set up a learning center for the black kids, or let's invest $100 million. I wonder why it's always $100 million. Because
it's a nice round number.
Right. Because,
and it gives them a nice fat tax write-off.
Yeah, because Facebook, remember years ago, Facebook gave $100 million to Newark Public Schools, which only went to the pockets of the bureaucrats and
and the school privatization.
Right. I mean, very little of it went to the kids themselves. So I mean, so what I'm saying is the fact they're giving this $100 million, but look at how they're doing it. And see, this is where we got to be a little bit more sophisticated in how we view these things. You know, yeah, on the surface it looks like a good thing.
Right.
Oh wow, you know, you hear the girl say we're ready, and we're Apple is investing $100 million so we can all learn IT stuff and program and stuff like that. But the thing of it is the fact that you think that they're gonna hire all them kids that's gonna go to them learning centers?
Come on now.
Do you think that they're gonna hire all of our children who take advantage of this of all of these so-called opportunities that they're and then what does this place in our mind? Because we're not teaching about community. So if we're not teaching about community, so our kids already are socialized really like, I got to get mine, you get yours.
Right.
So that's going to further weaken the black community because there is no unity and there's no ties because we're all from capitalism and racism and the fact that many of us just gave up. Now our children is indoctrinated with the capitalist theology of, you know, you got to make sure you okay. And so these corporations, you know, they're not giving this to our kids because they feel bad. A lot of it is given to them so they can exploit them even more.
That's right.
And that's what this is all about. Go ahead, Jack.
No, but I mean, you raised a good point about, you know, these so-called investments in Black and underserved Latinx communities. You know, our friend Karina Acri-Payez said that in the Raza culture, they say la cultura cura, means our culture cures.
Yes.
Everybody understands. Every people understands that our culture is what holds us together as a people. Our culture inoculates us from the attacks that come from the outside, that tries to infect us with a different culture from what we know and from what has helped us to survive. But somewhere along the line, we have, I'm not going to say we've forgotten that. The attacks on the Black community through propaganda, through politics, through outright violence, it is unprecedented.
Yes, yes.
Unprecedented. And you brought up some good examples of that, where these major corporations, it looks like they're just throwing money at Black people. Exactly. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of how much money they make and how much money these companies are worth, $100 million ain't nothing.
No.
Especially when you consider that when we're talking about Apple, right? They're setting up these learning centers and to get Black kids and Latinx kids and indigenous kids into coding and STEM, science, technology, education and mathematics, and you know they're not giving these kids training on the cutting edge technology that the scientists and the coders and the programmers and all of these folks are working on in Apple and Google right now.
Exactly. No,
they're not. And you know what? I'm not going to sit here and say that I want them to, because we see the way Apple and Google coordinate with law enforcement to spy on you and me, to access our data.
Right.
So this is why the Lukmans don't have a Ring camera. We don't have a Ring camera. We don't have an Amazon Echo in this house. We don't have, or what is it called? Amazon Alexa. Right. We don't have Google Echo.
Right.
We have a smart TV only because we bought that thing off of Facebook Marketplace for way less than we would have bought it if we had bought it, retail. Our appliances don't talk to us. They're not connected to anything. That is how that kind of technology, that sort of it's not quite AI, but that sort of smart technology is only used by, they claim that it makes life more convenient for us, but really it's a backdoor way for the alphabet intelligence agencies in this country to spy on you and me. That's what they do. If you don't believe me, if you don't believe us, then tune in to By Any Means Necessary on Tuesdays and listen to Chris Garaffa, technologist Chris Garaffa, with Tech for the People. This is what he talks about all the time. So when you have these companies that are heavily invested in creating this cutting edge technology that connects with the U.S. intelligence state,
right,
so that they can spy on people. Do you really think they are teaching our kids? They're telling our kids that, they're teaching our kids to help spy on their families and communities better. Come on now. They're not giving our kids any kind of cutting edge information, like you said, that can translate for them into not the kind of or the amount of jobs that will lift a whole community out of poverty. No, they're talking about a handful of hand-picked folks.
Right.
From their little programs that they're going to throw some crumbs to, reward individual people for participating in their programs, while the rest of the community that those people come from stay left behind.
And see, this is the thing, because you'll have some people who hear what you're saying and hear what I'm saying and say, wow, can't it's a good thing about what they're doing. Why y'all don't even like that? Y'all say that, nobody helps y'all. Then when somebody try to help you, then you got a problem with that. Well, this is the thing. On the surface, like we said, it looks like something positive. But if they really was about helping the Black community and helping the kids learn this new technology and coding and all that, Nobody consulted anybody in the Black community on how best way to do that.
How about that?
Right. Google didn't come by and say to the community leaders and the educational leaders of our community and say, hey, we would like to do this. What's best to do this? And then the thing of it is, every Black kid ain't going to college. So it's like, so what else? I mean, look, so, all right, so you got $100 million going for coding and everything, but then it's like, nobody consulted us. And this is what happens constantly when these things happen, because see, what happens is there's no accountability.
Right.
So Google and Apple gives this $100 million to HBCUs, and yet there's no accountability on how this money is actually being spent.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That's the point. They didn't come to, you're absolutely right, hon. They didn't come to the parents in the community.
No.
They didn't go to the schools. They didn't talk to the teachers. They didn't talk to, the social workers.
Right.
They didn't talk to anybody in the community. They didn't go to the pastors, which I've got to say all the time, don't go to the pastors sometimes. Most of the time, don't go to a whole lot of pastors in the Black community. They got some messed up ideas about some things. But I mean, just to the point, these people, they wrap their white supremacy in philanthropy. Right. And it looks good. It looks like, they're so helpful, and they're doing stuff for the community, like you said. Well, dang, people are helping you, but is it help really when what you're really doing is rolling out the red carpet that isn't even really red? It's not even a carpet. It's just a few crumbs to a few select people in the community that those people choose. They choose those people. They choose what they want our kids to know and to learn.
Right.
They decide what information they will give them. They make all the decisions about what's best for our individual kids that they choose, but they don't do anything for the community as a whole.
No, not at all. And
they know this. They understand that all of these philanthropic efforts that they throw at folks, they understand that it's just crumbs.
Michael Craig, I'm glad I caught that comment, Mike. You said exactly they would. Now you just hit it from me.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Oh, is that? See, I don't know. I'm still learning. So, yeah, Mike, thanks for that comment. You said exactly they will pull the best out of our communities. This is what white supremacy does. This is what settler colonialism does. This is what imperialism does.
Ooh,
it brain drains. So now again, you're going to have, and I'm going to tell you, this is what really bothers me is the fact that I know, like like a lot of us know, that those kids that do happen to make it to Apple, that do happen to make it to Google or whatever a major tech company that's out there, they're not going to be paid the same.
Oh, and how about they're going to face the same racial discrimination in Google and in Apple that they faced everywhere else? How do we know this is true? Because of all the Black people and Latinx people and other people of color who have come forward and talked about the racism in the culture in Google and Apple.
Exactly.
And these come on now. So listen, there's that part of this issue with, the way law enforcement sees our kids. But understand, it's not just a law enforcement thing, right? Because there's this study, and you brought this to my attention. Let me see, make sure I can put it up here for you all to see, and we're going to talk about this. So, let's stop thinking that it's just law enforcement that sees our babies as less than human. Honestly, there's no other way to put it.
Exactly.
There's this study, and this has been reported by, what is this, Vox, I think?
Right.
A new study shows even 5-year-olds can't escape racism. Why do they say this? Americans see Black girls, even at age 5, as less innocent than white girls. Now, this ain't cops, y'all.
Right. That's right.
This is not cops saying this. Let's go down into this. Let's dig down into this a little bit. The article reads, are children in kindergarten innocent? According to a new study by Georgetown Law Center on poverty and inequality, whether someone says yes depends largely on race.
Wow.
Now, the survey, which drew on a survey of 325 U.S. adults, found that Americans as a whole view Black girls as less innocent and more mature for their age from ages 5 to 14. Now, I got to stop right there, because I always say when we talk about these political polls that the sample size, I'm always a little bit suspect about the sample size. 325 adults, that's a small sample size. Now, I'm just going to come right out and say, okay, I'm a little suspect about the small sample size.
Okay.
That does give me some pause. However, this is not the first time that a scientific study has been done that has produced results that show that white people in general view Black children as more guilty or more adult than white children.
Mm-hmm.
This study is not new. This particular study, they just did this.
Right.
But the studying white Americans' views of Black children and how they view Black children been done before.
Well, this is the justification they used back in slavery to rape our young girls.
How about that?
Our young boys.
As soon as a child had her period.
Yep. I mean, breeding farms, which the United States was famous for, breeding young Black girls and Black boys to have more people that they can use as slaves. And we talk about culture and how that crept into our culture. I can remember hearing a lot of old folks say to young girls, stop being fast, or you acting grown, or, and I'm sure it was said with the best intentions. But because we come from a slave background, and in this country, because we come from a slave background, thank you for saying that. But because we have experienced slavery in this country, and the cruelty and all of the dysfunction that went with that, we picked up a lot of that stuff. Even now, and I cringe when I keep hearing Black people talk about how brutal they were beaten by their parents. I was hit with a extension cord, and I was sit, and this and. That's not normal. And
then we turn around and say, and I turned out fine.
Right. No, you didn't.
If you are doing to your children what your parents, who didn't know any better because they were indoctrinated in this white supremacist system, and they were indoctrinated with some really, truly psychotic white supremacist ideology about children and how to parent and punishment and discipline. If you are doing that same stuff to your kids and justifying it, talking about you turned out fine, no, you didn't. You turned out just as confused and indoctrinated. And honestly, you said it earlier, hon, traumatized.
Traumatized. That's
you
right.
turned out just as traumatized as your parents were. So, I mean, there's so much in this, but this study, and it does point to a couple of other studies that were done that confirm their results, even with the small sample size. They say that the study, the people who conducted the study posed a series of questions. Survey participants were more likely to say that Black girls compared to white girls need less nurturing.
Look at that.
Come on now.
Look at that.
This hurts my soul. Black girls compared to white girls need less nurturing, need less protection, need to be supported less, need to be comforted less, are more independent, know more about adult topics, and know more about sex. This is what
this is sad. This is sad.
So when we have conversations in this country about the abuse of children, particularly the abuse of little girls. And these, all these folks are talking about sex trafficking, which was a huge conversation that we're beginning to have every year around the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Why? Because the Super Bowl is one of the largest sex trafficking events in this country. People don't understand. But then when you think of, that's a whole nother conversation, but then when you think of a lot of the victims of sex trafficking are children.
Children, yes.
They're young, they're little girls, and they are overwhelmingly Black and Latinx.
Yep.
And you wonder why. Like there was a case a few years ago here in DC. Some
Oh, I know what you I know what you're going to talk about.
Scum.
Yep.
They were in a 4-unit apartment and they were running a sex trafficking ring in their apartment. So there were 3 other apartments around them.
Right.
There were these little girls
yep.
that were going out of the apartment, and these grown ass men coming in and out of the apartment, raping these little girls.
Yep.
And this went on for years.
Yeah. And what was so sad is the person who was in charge of that was a DC police officer.
Yeah, right. So when you hear that and you realize, okay, this is the way white people see our kids, and that's not a surprise. But when you understand that this thinking is woven into the propaganda machine that is directed at us, then I hope you start to understand why we believe some of the awful things we do about little black girls, like you said, being fast.
That's right.
And they too grown. They need to learn how to take care of their little brothers and sisters. No, they don't.
Exactly.
They need to be children. They need to be protected. They need to be nurtured. Little black girls do not need to be indoctrinated that they are fucking super women and they can do everything. Just like little black boys don't need to be indoctrinated that they're little men. They're not little men. They're children. They're little boys. And we have been indoctrinated to believe that the childhood of our children isn't worth protecting. Because after all, we had to grow up fast in this white supremacist society.
Oh, yeah.
We had to face a lot of issues that maybe a lot of little white kids didn't have to deal with because the system isn't aimed at them, right? We didn't have to see the cops coming in, dragging, or a lot of them didn't have to see the cops coming in dragging their parents.
Right, exactly.
They didn't have to listen to a lot of their parents arguing over money because daddy lost his job again because the man. And we talking about what we have lived, y'all.
Exactly.
We ain't talking about a study now. We talking about what we've lived because daddy lost his job because the white man asked him to do some shit that he won't gonna do.
Right.
And mama is like, I understand how the man is, but we got to eat.
Right.
And you understand? And then having to deal with adults who had children probably too young.
Exactly. Yep.
Who got married probably too young, who needed to have been children themselves, but now have the responsibility of a family, and they barely knew how to be adults themselves, so they got a whole bunch of stuff wrong.
And you know what really, and I can't help but stress this, because when I seen that black male, and I wouldn't even call him a man, when I saw that black male standing back there, and he was safely in the background.
Yeah.
He wasn't asking questions.
Right. He was like in the middle of the street.
Right. He wasn't asking questions. I remember, Jackie, when me and you, I forget what workshop we went to, but I remember when they were talking about how in DC, the jump out squads and all them, when our kids was going to prom and stuff, and they would have our kids sit on the sidewalk in their prom outfits and stuff. And just humiliate them. And you see all these black people in their cars and stuff just driving by. Nobody stopping to even ask, what did these kids do?
Right.
Who are your parents? And this and that and the other. They have terrified our community so much that all we want to do is just keep our heads down and keep it moving. So I was even more upset with that black male because I know what I would have done. And if y'all think I'm lying, you should have seen me at Black Lives Matter last year. Look, there's videotape of what I would do. But yeah,
go
right.
ahead.
But what I'm saying is that's what made me so angry, because I'm saying if I was there, and I said, if I was there, I said I would have came over there. They would have had to beat me, lock me up, or something. But I would not have stood by and allowed that child to call for her father and stuff. And here I am, a grown-ass black man, sitting there looking all passive and helpless, and we take stuff off of the white community we wouldn't take off each other.
Man,
and that's the thing.
come on.
We always talking big, bad, and loud when it comes to beating up and shooting each other and stuff. I mean, you know, we big and bad when it comes to how we confront each other. But then you got four white cops, one of them female, come in there and manhandle a little black child, and all of a sudden now we just like sheep. What really bothered me as a black man is the fact that I'm saying to the fact that where is black manhood at? Because see, every people that, I mean, this is the look, you call me a throwback all you want, but this is the biology of the male. There's a reason why the male is constructed the way that he is. There's a reason why. And one of the reasons why the male is constructed the way he is, why he is bigger, why he is stronger, why he has more testosterone, because he is supposed to protect his tribe. You go to anything, and you mess with any animal in the animal kingdom, as I have witnessed, even with my own dog. While I was walking Brewski one time through the park, and there was a herd of deer. Now Brewski, you know, he's frisky and stuff. He want to run after the deer. It was a couple of the little fawns, and Brewski went to go, you know, like I had him on a leash, but he went to go try to approach the fawns, and these two big ass bucks came around.
I don't think so, dog.
I mean, these two big ass bucks came around. They stood in front of the does, and they stood in front of the fawns, and they looked at Brewski, and Brewski's not stupid. He got the message, and he turned around, and we went somewhere else. This is the job of the male in any species. So when you have the men of a community who can't even defend their own community, you know, I mean, you know, we got to stop being scared of jail. We got to stop being scared of these folks coming in there. We got to stop being scared of jail. We got to stop being scared of these threats and stuff. Oh, I'm going to lock you up. Well, you know what? Then I'm just going to be spending the jail tonight. And the thing of it is the fact that how does the world view black men? If there's black men out there, I'm talking to you and me. How do the world view black men to the point where it's like, you know, how can you be seen as a man? You know, because those cops would have had more respect. For even if they would have beat us down or however they would have did, I guarantee you, from man to man, they would have had more respect. Dr. Joyce DeGroy, Dr. DeGroy, she said one time in one of her lectures, she said, "Ladies, look, it takes male muscle power to repel male muscle power. You can't do it." So this is on a primal level, Jackie. This is why it just bothered me so much on a primal level, because it's like, look, we got to reclaim our manhood. Not only reclaim our manhood, we got to rebuild our communities, man. Because if you can come in our community and take a child away or abuse a child in our midst,
yeah, and we're standing there watching,
right?
And this was not done on some isolated corner somewhere where there were, you know, out in the woods. This was a neighborhood,
right?
There were people living in those homes. Where the fuck were those people?
Exactly.
Where were those people? Now I understand some people are very some people don't like, you know, the very pro-man message. I understand some people really don't like that. But let me explain to you what kind of man this dude right here is. And I am absolutely bragging. I'm bragging on my man. I'm gonna do that because y'all need to understand. Look, I was single until I was 45 years old. So I honestly did not need anybody to take care of me. That's not why I got married. I'm just being real right now. We're gonna be real, ladies. We're gonna be real. I didn't need him to take care of me. And I've never been afraid of anybody. And that has been a good thing, but it's also gotten me in some trouble. But I never write a check with my mouth that my ass can't catch. I never do. I might go down, but I'm gonna go down swinging. And whoever I'm scrapping with, everybody's gonna know they had a hard time with me. That's just how I was raised. So I never had this expectation that I needed a man to take care of me. Here's the thing, though. So when we were at the Venezuelan embassy last summer,
I guess it was.
Yeah, last summer. Everything was all cool and good. You know, we were going down there, and Mike has feedback again. We're having that problem again. So I don't know what happens. Sometimes it does that. I'm checking, hoping it's better.
Yeah, we'll take care.
Let's see. Has it gotten better? Hoping that it's correct once we make an adjustment. Let me know if it's still a problem, folks. I hope it's gotten better. So far, it's getting worse. Okay. Turn some stuff on. Let's see. Okay. I don't know what. All right, how's that for audio? Is that better? Has that improved? I switched audio sources. Hopefully that's a little better, y'all. Let me know if it's gotten better. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes. Okay.
All right.
All right. Fabulous. Now
we're back.
Whew. Because I cannot have this story about my husband and why. Yes, it does matter when a man is willing to protect you. This is not to say that I could not protect myself. That's not the point. That is not the point. Yeah, in a pinch, you come at me, we fighting. That's just, I'm not going to sit around like, oh, no, I can't protect myself. No. So we're at the Venezuelan embassy last summer, when, or maybe it was summer, but no, it was summer before last. It was 2 summers ago. It was right. So we were down there. We're delivering supplies to our comrades, the Embassy Protection Collective, Kevin Zeese, rest in peace, Margaret Flowers, Juliet Leak, a bunch of other people were there. And we just went and delivered some supplies a couple of Sundays. Everything was cool. There were, a little bit of press out there. We attended a few events they had there. And then all of a sudden one day, the Gusanos show up.
Right,
the CIA, and really what happened was the CIA orchestrated this counter protest outside of the Venezuelan embassy. Well, these people were not just protesting, they were assaulting folks out there.
Yeah.
They groped people. They groped, I think, Ariel Gold of Code Pink. One of them had a bullhorn and he was screaming in the bullhorn.
Oh my God.
He was screaming in the bullhorn, had the bullhorn right up to Paul Pumphrey's ear.
Yes, he did. Yep.
And Paul Pumphrey is one of the co-founders of Friends of the Congo, a friend of ours, a comrade. They were just horrible. They were hurling out racial epithets. We got called monkey and nigger a couple of times. And that was all fine and good because we was like, all right, okay. As long as you don't put your hands on anybody.
Right.
I got into a shouting match with this one woman, and I kept telling her, she kept trying to come close to me. And I said to her, listen, you can talk all the shit you want. If you put your hands on me, I'm knocking you on your ass. Mm-hmm. And that's just all there is to it.
They were very aggressive.
She backed off because I guess she figured I'm not fucking with this black girl. So we're out there. The cops are not our friends. They're not out there protecting us. And we're going around the side of the building to try to get to the door before they cut us off.
Right.
Well, they cut us off first. One of these people decided he wanted to get in my face. And I'm ready to square up and like, okay, we gonna fight. We just gonna fight out here today and I'm going to jail. This one moves me out of the way, stands in between this person and me and says to him, you're not gonna put your hands on my wife. I don't give a fuck what you do. You ain't gonna put your hand. Anything you gotta say, you're gonna say it to me.
Yep.
But here's the interesting thing, which at this point, this is the point where I was really afraid. The cop comes around and he doesn't move the person who is being aggressive toward us out of the way. The cop puts his hands on my husband.
Oh yeah, he did.
I am about to lose my damn mind because I'm fitting to have to answer for some assault charges because get
the bail money together.
So Abdus, when the cop puts his hand on Abdus's arm, Abdus looked at the man, looked at the dude's hand, looked at him, looked at him, and then took his hand, the cop now, and pushed it off and looked at the cop and says, "Ain't nobody touching my damn wife. Nobody." And the cop backed off like, "Okay, all right then." Now, I'm not saying that's going to work every time, but I think it does make
last time when we was at Black Lives Matter, they maced us.
And see, that was the other thing. I'm not saying that that's the kind of response you're going to get every time. I am just telling you, as somebody who, you know, I can take care of myself, and I don't mind standing on my own 2 feet if I have to. Yeah, it makes a difference when you have a man who is willing to stand in that gap for you. I'm not saying that if you don't have that, there's something wrong with you or you're deficient. I'm just telling you, yeah, it does feel a little different when you're in the trenches, when you got some testosterone between you and an asshole.
And I know that a lot of, ladies don't want to hear this, and even some men don't want to hear this because you hear so much about toxic masculinity. Well, there's a way to deal with toxic masculinity. You know, you have to speak that language. And that's the way it is. And I know it ain't pretty, but that's not the politically correct thing to say, because during that thing with the embassy, we had people who was there that was on our side, who didn't like that we responded in that way.
Yeah.
This supposed to be nonviolent, but you can't be nonviolent with people that's violent with you. No. You know what I mean? So, so this is the way that goes.
Yeah, and then the other thing, when you're talking about this summer now, I was getting my protests confused. This summer, we were down at Black Lives Matter Plaza, and we were trying to provide support to the comrades who were trying to take down the Andrew Jackson statue in Lafayette Park. We absolutely were. We are not ashamed of that. We hope they try it again.
Yep.
We will continue to provide support. So we're trying to provide a perimeter around folks, and these kids, bless their heart, they don't know. They don't know how to really. They getting all, oh my God, the police are coming. Yeah, they coming. Stand your fucking ground. Don't ever run. Don't run.
Yep.
Because all they're gonna do is chase you. Don't run. If you're gonna link arms and provide and try to provide a perimeter for folks to do what they got to do, then you do that.
Mm-hmm.
You do that. Don't cede any ground. And these kids, they're getting tear gas. They've never been tear gassed before. Oh my God, they tear gassed me, and we're just like, yeah, that nobody told you they were going to do that.
I definitely was getting ready to get in trouble that night, because when that cop tear gassed you, I was getting ready to leap on him. That's when I got tear gas.
I got tear gas first because I got the camera and I'm all up in the thing and crawling under bushes, and he's trying to hold me by my shirt like, girl, don't you go over there. Yeah. And I'm getting a shot and whatnot. And I get tear gassed. He sees I'm tear gassed. He loses his mind. He's about to go after the cop. Then he gets tear gassed. But then this is the other thing that he did. And I think this is, and I know I'm bragging a little bit on my husband because he deserves it. He will never tell you that he will never think that this is a big deal, these things that he does, but they are a big deal because he is very protective of me, but he's also protective of people in the struggle. And I think that is the key to what being a man in these spaces is really about. It's not really about the testosterone, although that's helpful. It's not really about squaring up against an asshole that is probably going to be more likely to repel a male aggressor than if I were to square up against a male aggressor, although, that's helpful.
Right.
What we're talking about is a man who is not going to stand by and let authority exact abuse upon vulnerable people. That's the kind of manhood we're talking about. Right.
Exactly.
So what happened was we had both been tear gassed,
right,
and the cops were using their bikes to push people down, to push the crowd back. And they were really just like pushing people on the ground and walking on people. Somebody, we didn't even know who. We didn't know who this person was. Somebody got pushed down by the cops. They were lying on the ground, and he's got tear gas in his eyes. He's, asking me if I'm all right. I'm asking him if he's all right. He sees out of the corner of his eye, from what he can see, that the police were walking over somebody who was on the ground. He tells me, you go over there and sit down. I'll be right back. And see, I'm not crazy. I know how he is. So I'm not going to argue with him. I'm not going to sit there and, oh my God, what are you going to do? What can I? He tells me, look, go sit down, be safe. I'll be right back. I'm a trust him to do that. He is doing this because he knows it's something that needs to be done. He goes over there in the midst of all these cops who are like walking on this person, drags the person from underneath the cops and their bikes, pretty much picks them up and walks the person over to the sidewalk to where I am. And the cops are standing around looking like, what the fuck just happened? I mean, they saw him go over there. A couple of them had their little mace cans ready. And when they saw that he just bent down, picked this person up, dragged him out from under the bikes, and turned around and walked on away, the cops were just like stunned. They were like, you know, that tribe, the documentary we saw with the African tribe that I can't remember where it was.
They just go up to the lions and just take their food.
Yeah, they just go up to the lions and take their food. And the lions are like,
right. Because they're not used to being challenged like that.
What just happened? See, that. So what we're not talking about is, you know, just any man with an attitude, who with some bravado, who's willing to scrap. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about men who are truly protectors of their people and who won't stand by and allow vulnerable people to be abused by the authorities. That's what I think we've gotten away from. Because remember,
we have.
Remember that the uprising in Newark started because folks in the neighborhood wasn't going to let the cops arrest one more black kid.
Exactly.
Over some bullshit trumped up charges. Yep. So the cops were going to arrest some kid, I think, for the murder of a cab driver or something like that.
Something like that.
And the word got around. The popo out here taking away one of our kids again. And everybody came out in the neighborhood. And that's how, I think that's one of the things that contributed to the unrest in Newark. I think that's also something that contributed to the unrest, I think, maybe in New York City. In a lot of the uprisings in the summer of 68.
Well, there's a famous one, and I know we'll move on to another topic, but there's a famous one back in 1919 up in Chicago when the black kids were swimming in the lake and the white folks didn't like it and they went to assault those kids. The black community came out with guns a-blazing. You know, because the cops also assaulted those black kids,
right? And
that created one of the riots, one of the riots of that bloody summer. But that was the black people responding to this abuse from the police and the white citizens against black children,
right?
So I mean, you know, we've gotten away from that now. Like I said, we'll jump bad in each other's face, but the thing of it is that we've lost something. John Henry Clark said one time. He said, may he rest in peace, Dr. John Henry Clark. He said that the black community, we had customs that we have forgotten. And we need to start looking at our community critically. We need to start looking at ourselves critically. And we need to stop and we need to start understanding the importance of community. Our ancestors understood that. Our parents, our grandparents, they all understood that. Those of you who are old enough know that we once had a community. And so what we have to do now is we have to get it back.
Absolutely. And I love in the chat that y'all are giving each other tips, pointers on what to do in a protest. Y'all, that's what's up.
Yep.
Phil said, this is so incredibly important. Do not wear contacts to a demonstration. Don't. We have started putting together, and Trasido said, you know, was grateful for that. What we do, and if you have noticed on, I don't know if you've been on our Coffee Current Events page or my personal page or his personal page, last summer we started putting together safety kits.
Yes.
That we would take to people who were out protesting. And what did we include in those safety kits? a pair of swimming goggles.
Yeah, swimming goggles. That's
simple pair of swimming goggles, because
right.
they were liberal with the tear gas.
Yeah, they were.
And it'll get on your skin and it'll burn, but you don't want it getting in your eyes. So that's
but the only thing I was upset was, because folks, I quit smoking. So this is what my third week. I quit smoking.
It's very good.
Yeah, but I was smoking then, and the thing of it is that when I couldn't see and everything, and Jackie and all the kids out there with the water was pointing out, I just wanted her to put a cigarette in my mouth so I could smoke. I said, "Where's my smoke at?"
I did. I had to put a cigarette in his mouth, and he sat down, and he's just like, "I'll be all right."
Yeah.
But yeah, Chronicles of the Lukmans. What's going on, Maurice?
That's my boy. That's my son, y'all.
Chronicles of the Lukmans and Lukman Nation, and how we do things. Look, we're not telling you these stories to like pat ourselves on the back. This is our life. This is what we do. We're not doing these shows, and we're not like at work and doing husband and wife stuff.
Yep.
We are out in the streets. We try our best to talk, to walk what we talk. So we just a few stories from the trenches, but back to this issue of protecting our people and our babies. There is this other study that is just horrifying.
That really disturbed me, this one.
There is this study, excuse me, about the effect of maternal exposure to police killings of unarmed Blacks during pregnancy on the birth weight of Black infants by trimester of exposure and distance to the incident. Now, this kind of a study is one of the reasons why we don't share a lot of these videos.
Right, exactly.
We've made a decision. Tonight was an exception because we were talking about this particular issue, but we turned the audio off.
Right.
But because there's only so much of that we can take. And this is why. This is what trauma does to not just you, not just me and Abdus and you, but this is what trauma does to our babies, even in utero.
That's right.
When we are exposed to trauma. So according to this study, the exposure to police killings of unarmed Black people during a woman's pregnancy does have an impact on the outcome of the health of the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So the research article it's in the what is this? I'm not sure what this publication is called.
Well, it's just from when I researched it, it's just a science mag.
Okay.
Yeah. But
the article is called Science Advances. And the research article is Police Violence and the Health of Black Infants. Let me look at this. Let me look and see what the article says. Okay, here's the abstract. Oh, so the premise was that police use of force is a controversial issue, but the broader consequences and spillover effects are not well understood. This study examines the impact of in utero exposure to police killings of unarmed Blacks in the residential environment on Black infants' health. Now, this says that the article has been retracted. So, okay, let's be fair and see why the article was retracted. Now, the person who did the research in the article said, I recently published a research article in which I examined the impact of in utero exposure to police killing of unarmed Blacks in a residential environment on Black infants' deaths. Subsequent to publication, a reader discovered classification errors in the data openly shared as part of the publication. After learning about these errors, I conducted a thorough investigation focusing on a larger sample of cases that revealed further classification errors. A reanalysis of the data leads to revised findings that do not replicate the results in the original paper. Therefore, I must retract the research article and apologize that these errors were not discovered before publication. Excuse me. Now, I am a little bit suspicious of that.
I am too.
Yep. I am a little suspicious of the retraction of the article based on classification errors. Classification errors in what? What were the errors in classification for? Excuse me. What were the classification errors that he later found? Mm-hmm. Now, this is not to say that, scientists don't have to amend their scholarly articles and there is not, mm-hmm. there are not errors that are found in their research. But let me tell you something. There is no theory under which research that could prove a direct link between the exposure to systemic racism and the outcome of, or the impact of health in utero would ever be allowed to not be challenged. It would never happen. Do you know why? Here's one reason why. Let me tell you one reason why. Because
but do we really need research that? Because the reason why I say that is everybody knows that when a woman is carrying a child, there's been studies. Okay, if you don't want to believe this study, mm-hmm. but the thing of it is this: everybody knows this has been proven that a child that when the mother talks, the child recognizes that mother's voice.
That's right.
So much so that when the baby is born, and the baby will respond only to that mother's voice. It's been known that if you sing to the child, if you do all of this stuff to the child, mm-hmm. so how in the hell that you can sing to the child and the child understands that, right? That the mother can talk to the child,
the child responds to that.
But the child can't respond to police violence and trauma.
Right, that's traumatizing the mother.
It's still stimuli.
It is. Come on now, come on. Yeah. So I mean that kind of stuff. When the scientific community in this country comes close to finding scientific proof of everything we've been saying, then the powers that be have to say, no, we can't let you do that. We can't let you do that.
But these are the same science community that that had the reputation of operating on blac women.
That's true.
Without anesthesia, and saying that black women could take more pain. So they operated the history of gynecology. Mm-hmm. These were the same scientific community that filled us up with syphilis and stuff on the Tuskegee experiment, not telling us, right. And allow us to affect our families and everything else.
Right.
These are the same scientific community that had all kind of misinformation mm-hmm. about black people, only because in my viewpoint is that a lot of those things, and that's why I'm suspicious of this retraction, because what mm-hmm. happens is the fact that there is a lot of pressure to not deal with the trauma that black people have been put under, because you have already said, and mm-hmm. rightfully so, that this country owes us. So the more evidence that comes down the pipe that we done screwed these people up, mm-hmm. then sooner or later, man, it's like, there's without a shadow of a doubt. You can't keep on saying, oh, slavery happened so long ago, they ain't got nothing to do with y'all. When science come out and say, yeah, it do, because generations down the line, they're still traumatized of what happened then. If that study could have came out and talked about the stimuli of your great-grandmother, the stimuli of your grandmother, the stimuli of your mother, all of these generations down the line of carrying this trauma genetically, then the United States government ain't got no choice. But, there's no way the racists can come and say that we're not affected by something that happened 100, 200 years ago.
Well, Neil Sanger makes this exact point, and he's absolutely right. There have been studies that have proven not only intergenerational trauma is passed down through DNA.
Right.
They studied that, and that's a foregone conclusion now that the studies have shown that that's true. in regard to Holocaust survivors, but they don't want to give that. They don't want to say that for us. They don't want to say that for Black folks. They don't want to say that for indigenous people. They don't want to say that for, you know, for the Raza community. They don't want to do that. But Holocaust survivors, oh yeah, sure. Intergenerational trauma is absolutely, it's a thing for them, but not for us. Neil Sanger makes the point. The epigenetic studies of both environmental and intergenerational trauma are well-trodden ground. This is not, I don't care what kind of, and I'm so glad you pointed that article out, because I don't care what kind of classification errors existed in that in that article. It could not have impacted the outcome of what we already know to be established science.
Right.
That when the mother experiences trauma, the fetus also experiences trauma.
I mean, wasn't this understood, even though they didn't have scientific proof? But wasn't it understood back then that you kept the pregnant mother away from certain things because it would mark the baby? That's what the old folks used to say. That's what they.
But you know why? You know why they really don't want to. You know why they really don't want to go down that road?
Why?
Because there are so many folks in this whole pro-life movement who have been using abortion and then banging Black folks over the head about abortion, and y'all have so many abortions and you need to be pro-life, and abortion is a Black issue and all that kind of stuff. But when we turn that shit around,
right,
and like, you know what? If you're so pro-life, how come you are creating so much trauma that you are affecting the health of our children in utero? Right. Not us. Yep. Not us, but you and your white supremacy, you and your racism, you and your fascist cops are affecting the health of our children in utero. Don't talk to me about abortion and pro-life. That's one of the reasons why they can never have that kind of a study. But see, this is why we need to have these conversations. And I'll never forget, I am not friends with someone who I was a good friend with for quite a few years, because she was very Black lady. We went to church together, very, very pro-life, very pro-life. I mean, pro-life to the point where she didn't like Barack Obama because he was not pro-life. Now, we don't like Barack Obama because he's an imperialist. He's an imperialist and blackface.
We have political reasons for not liking.
We have political, but she had this, ridiculous, I vote because I vote for pro-life issues. Really? Do you? You vote for pro-life issues, but you didn't give a damn what the cops did to poor folks who, and she don't live too far from here.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So it's not like she wasn't aware of these issues that affect Black babies. But she was pro-life though. And that's why, okay. Whew. But see, we need to have these conversations. We
do. I agree.
We need to have these conversations about our communities, about the people in our communities, about what you said, which I think is so important. And honestly, y'all, I know a lot of you are not going to like that I say this, but these kinds of things that Abdus just said about the need for Black men to recapture Black manhood, that protective, nurturing, Black men providing a safe place for Black people, that needs to come from brothers. Now, I can have conversations with him in private and, about whatever it is we need to, because there are some things that need to be kept in the family. But Black men need to be clear on the role of Black men, not this, caveman, toxic masculinity, but see, chest beating kind of. No, that's not it.
But Black men have never been about that. And see, and I think that's the thing that we're missing. We're allowing other people to define what masculinity is, and we're buying their definition of it. Black men have never really carried themselves like that. And in fact, there was a study out that says that Black men were the most liberal when it came to the issues of gender.
Right.
Right. That Black men were the most liberal when it came to gender. We had to be. You know what I mean? Because we didn't have the fortune of being as privileged as our white male counterparts have. Everybody had to pitch in.
Right.
But, and the thing of it is that we understood a lot of times, and not more than Black women understood the effects of racism on us. But we both had to understand that, man, we're both being beat by the same system. So we have, and I'm gonna give you this quick story before you go to that next article. And I wanted to say this because it's getting time. Y'all might have to join us tomorrow for the football story, but we'll do it tomorrow, part 2. But the thing of it is that because this is just so much, man, into this, man. So forgive us, but indulge us, please, because the thing of it is, there was when I lived in Newark, New Jersey. I'm gonna tell you how important it is to have men in the community. When I lived in Newark, New Jersey, there was an organization that I belonged to that would a bunch of us men would escort the kids to school. And then when school came out, a bunch of us who were able to do it would be there and to see the kids come out and make sure that they went, they got home safely. Right. That was so successful that the kids look forward to us. We were so successful that the city of Newark, under Cory Booker, that the city of Newark stopped us from doing it. We went down there one day and the cops told us that we couldn't do it anymore. And the kids were heartbroken. Some of them kids even cried because they were looking for us. They were like, where the men at? They was like, where they at? Because they felt safe. Right. And this is what the presence of the male does. The presence of the males is symbolic of safety. It means safe. When you have a child, as one of my elders told me one time, you walk in that child and you come and something happens, something that disturbs the child gonna look up at you. You know what I mean? Because the child expect you to deal with it. Right. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is that those kids were looking forward to us being out there. And this is how we know, this is how I knew that the system does not want our communities healthy, because why would you stop a thing like that?
And that goes right back to the issue of the way enslavement was carried out, the way community destabilization was carried out. Right. Look at mass incarceration. Okay, let's look at imperialism on the continent. What's the first thing the imperialists do when they want to subdue a people? They attack the men.
Yep. I mean,
they attack that is warfare. That's common warfare, and everywhere they attack the men. They attack the young men, and they kill off all the old men. Yep. And then that just leaves the women. And then what do they do with the women? They rape the women. They enslave the women. Because the women are the vessels that would extend their DNA. Exactly. So what do you think happened in carrying out enslavement? They took the children first because they were easy, because they were easier. Then they took the men. Then they took the young, healthy men. They killed a lot of the elderly men, the ones that they didn't leave behind, but they took the children, the men, and then they took the women. Yep. So then when we're here, or in Brazil, or in the Caribbean, or wherever we were dropped off, Denmark, Holland, the UK, wherever we were dropped off along this diaspora during in the transatlantic slave trade, then when we established communities after enslavement was over in whatever country it was, how did they keep our communities destabilized? Aside from overt discrimination and not providing jobs and not providing decent housing, what did they do? They locked up the men. Yes, they did. Mass incarceration was at first targeted toward young Black men. We saw that shit with our own eyes. Yep. We saw it and there's nothing wrong with promoting young Black girls. That's great. But you can't uplift young Black girls and leave our young Black boys behind. That's what the system wants us to do. We both rise, or we both gonna stay down here and struggle together. That's my perspective. I understand a lot of people don't feel that way, but that's how I feel. If I had children and somebody came to me with, oh, we have a program for
Right,
your
right,
daughter.
right.
My question is going to be, well, where's the program for my son?
Right, right.
Oh, there's no program for my son? Then no, my daughter is not going to be in your program, because you're not going to pull my children apart this way. They are not going to learn that one of them is more important or more value to this system than the other one.
Exactly.
But that's what this system did when they what's it called? There was after enslavement,
right?
There was the convict lease program. Yes, there were women that were caught up in convict leasing, but it was mostly black men. It was mostly black men who were formerly enslaved, and black women were left to sharecrop and were left at the mercy of the same racist, raping white folks who ran the plantations or who worked on the plantations. Then it was convict leasing. Then it was chain gangs. Mostly men. Some women, yes, but mostly men.
Right. That's right.
Then it was the draft.
Right.
Vietnam. Right. Mostly men. There weren't no women drafted. Mostly men from poor black and brown neighborhoods.
Yep.
Then heroin addiction from Vietnam took out a whole lot of brothers. Took out a whole lot of our brothers in the Raza community. Indigenous also.
Then came Bill Clinton.
Mass incarceration and crack. And I cannot tell you what it was like to live in this neighborhood, to see all these young boys that I went to middle school with all of a sudden disappear. You cannot tell me that a strong man in the community who is protective of and who cares for his family and community is not a threat to this system. Not when you realize how this system has systematically targeted those men and took them out of the community and terrified the ones who were left, to the point that they're afraid to stand up for what's theirs.
And so what's the result of that? A 9-year-old black girl screaming for her daddy, being abused by police, and there's nobody there to help her.
So yeah, we did go over with this topic, and we will talk about the NFL tomorrow night, because that's the same shit, different.
Yeah, that's right.
different bucket, I guess. But we'll be a little bit more lighthearted with it, I guess, because it is kind of ridiculous.
But I just on some good news though, and I'm glad our friend George Bernard is on.
Hey,
we're trying to stretch out a little bit and stuff, and Jackie has a large collection of monologues and stuff like that, and so what we're going to do is we're going to put them together. And we're going to have them brought out in the book form. And it's going to be called The Failed Experiment by Jacqueline Luqman.
Really? You gave it a title already?
I gave it a title already. Yep, The Failed Experiment. And, George, we're going to be contacting you, buddy.
So lots of exciting stuff going on in Luqman Nation. Hey, thank y'all so much for hanging out with us tonight. We definitely did go over on this topic, but this is how important this topic is to us. We have to protect our people. We have to protect our families. Your family is not just the people that you pushed out of your loins if you had them. Your family is your community. And if you got people in your community that got problems, you need to learn how to deal with those people. And stop calling the cops on your damn people all the time.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Look, unless somebody is like holding a gun to somebody, don't call the damn cops because people are having an argument.
Right. Get
involved with the members of your community and learn how to be a violence interrupter. Learn how to be a mediator. Learn how to de-escalate situations. Stop calling the damn cops on your people. So anyway, y'all, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate you. If you like what you see and hear here in Luqman Nation, consider becoming a patron. You can find us on patreon.com/Luqman Nation, LUQMANNATION. Subscribe to us on YouTube, please. Follow us on Twitter. Lukman Nation, the number 1, no space. Like us on Facebook at Coffee, Current Events, and Politics in Lukman Nation. And as always, y'all, be really, really good to each other. And I say to you, like Fred Hampton said, peace, if you are willing to fight for it. See you tomorrow night for part 2, 7:30.
Peace.
Oh, yeah. Hey, look at our new list of patrons. Hey, look at that. There you go.
I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in, but don't you dare give up now. Hope, believe, then me pull up through some bucks down. Tired till the valet pull the truck round. Push the line after we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this? Then booked the surgery just to pull